So we're going to talk about the Cold War now. At this point in time, you should understand how horrifying nuclear bombs are based on the Hiroshima and Nagasaki lesson from last week. You should understand what communism is from this week's slide as well. So it all comes together here. So the Cold War is the name of the conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union, aka Russia, from 1947 all the way until 1991. So America hates communism, and communists hate American capitalism. And so the whole world kind of had to pick, whose side am I going to be on? Am I going to be like Russia and try this communism thing out, or am I going to be like the United States? So after World War II, you've probably seen this map before if you can remember back to the EU lesson. You have Europe here and Germany. The Nazis have surrendered, and so Europe is split into two. You have American democracy and capitalism here on this side. You don't really have to know all the details of capitalism. It just, when I say capitalism, just think of what we are here. So all these blue countries are our friends, and then all the red countries were either taken over or are communist countries controlled by Russia. So the whole world was split right between Germany. So every country in red by the 1970s had been taken over by communists, usually by their own people. It was usually like a civil war. So a lot of countries in Africa, tons of countries in Asia. You can see North Korea here is now a communist country, and you see Cuba. So one of the rules of the Communist Manifesto was you have to keep expanding. These communists, they wanted to take over the entire world. And you have to do that because countries like the United States, these gray countries here, these capitalist countries, will try to stop you from spreading. So, the United States was the first to create the nuclear bomb, but soon Russia, the Soviet Union, got a hold of it. When they got a hold of it, it changed the game. Now we realize we can destroy ourselves. And then soon a lot of countries started getting nuclear weapons, like China. So we are at the point by the 1960s and 70s, where even the 50s, where we realize that a war between the blue side and the red side, or the gray countries and the red countries, will probably end the world because of all the nuclear bombs. So we have something called an arms race. And what an arms race is where the United States and the Soviet Union, they started racing to build the biggest nuclear bombs possible. And they wanted to possess the most nuclear bombs possible. So that's called the arms race. They were trying to build the biggest and the most numerous. And then we have nuclear proliferation, which means the spreading of nuclear bombs. So we're going to share these nuclear bombs with everybody. We're going to teach countries how to make them. So today, there's tons of nuclear bombs everywhere because of this. It says nuclear bombs were created to be larger and more devastating than before. And the Soviet Union created the largest nuclear bomb ever, called the Tsar Bomba, which I will show you here.
Ever since the first nuclear weapons test in the deserts of New Mexico and the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, nuclear weapons have become significantly more powerful. Since the first test in New Mexico by the United States in 1945, 2,475 nuclear weapons have been detonated across the globe. Over 85% of those detonations have come from only two countries, however, the United States and the former Soviet Union. Only two of those thousands of detonations were ever used in a war, the ones dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II by the United States. But those bombs were very small compared to modern weaponry. The Hiroshima bomb produced an explosion of 15 kilotons, or 15,000 tons worth of TNT. The bomb dropped on Nagasaki had an explosion of 21 kilotons, but how much bigger can nuclear weapons possibly get? The answer is, terrifyingly, much, much bigger. The largest nuclear weapon currently in the United States arsenal is the B-83, which can produce a blast of 1.2 megatons. To understand the scale from here out, 1 megaton is equal to 1 million tons of TNT, and that is equal to 1,000 kilotons. Remember that the Hiroshima blast was just 15 kilotons, so that means that the B-83 produces a blast 80 times more powerful than that. What I've been showing on this scale is only the size of the mushroom cloud that the bombs produced, so to further add to this scale, we're going to place the size of Mount Everest here and the average altitude of a commercial airliner that you would normally fly on here. So, the Castle Bravo bomb is the largest nuclear weapon ever tested by the United States. It produced a blast of 15 megatons, or about 1,000 times the scale of Hiroshima. But even that pales in comparison to the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated. In October 1961, the Soviet Union created the largest man-made explosion ever in human history when they detonated this device, known as the Tsar Bomba, here over this territory known as Novaya Zemlya. The bomb detonated with an astounding force of 50 megatons, or about 3,333 Hiroshima blasts. It was so powerful that it almost destroyed the plane that dropped it, shattered windows as far away as Norway and Finland, and the shock waves created by the bomb circled around the entire Earth 3 times. But this test was actually just a scaled-down version of what was theoretically possible. Although never tested, the Soviets did have plans to create a bomb that would be twice as powerful as even the Tsar Bomba, a bomb so powerful that it would have produced a mind-boggling 100 megaton blast, or about 6,666 Hiroshima blasts altogether. To get another sense of scale, let's imagine that Times Square in New York City would be the epicenter of these blasts. You can test this stuff out yourself on the website NukeMap after watching this video. I'll provide a link for it after the end, but let's see the results first. First off, we're going to show the size of this detonation, which was caused by...
I'll just show you this now. Let's see here. How do I get a nuke map? Nuke map. Alright, watch this. So there's Columbus, Ohio. Let's drag this down to Washington Courthouse. Okay. So let's go look at the Tsar Bomba here. And we'll detonate it. So if the Tsar Bomba exploded, that's how much of Ohio is gone if it's over Washington Courthouse. So that's one bomb. You can drive from Columbus to Cincinnati and you will just see nothing but devastation the entire way there. Courthouse is a complete loss. This is the fireball here. You are incinerated. Everything out here you'd probably be flattened and may have been turned to dust. This is where you don't want to be. This yellow. This is the area you'll have like burns and probably still be. I mean, most of them will probably die, but yeah, you don't want to be there. And then everything out here, maybe some buildings knocked down, glass everywhere, maybe some small towns flattened. I don't know, but that's just massive. So here is an example of, we won't watch that. So let's move on. By the way, this is Castle Bravo. So Tsar Bomba was the largest nuke that the Russians dropped, and Castle Bravo was the largest nuke that we dropped. Let's watch. So this plane is several miles away, probably like 70 miles away from that nuclear explosion. This is in the Pacific, way out in the ocean. It's just hard to believe something like that exists. And the fact that there could be thousands of these. Pretty terrifying. That's a picture of the Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear explosion ever. Of course, it's not as detailed as the one we took. Another bad thing that happens is fallout. So when a nuclear bomb explodes, people get poisoned by the radiation. You can see this person is suffering from radiation poisoning. Las Vegas was a hotbed for nuclear activity. People used to come and look at these nuclear explosions. You can see these guys were swimming in near Nevada, and there's nuclear testing going on out here, and everyone's looking. A Las Vegas postcard with a nuclear bomb in the background from the 1950s. It's pretty hilarious. They were so common that they just become a part of the city, like the Eiffel Tower in Paris. People used to go out and watch them test these nuclear bombs. And yes, as you can see there, they're so bright when they explode. They tell you to put your glasses on, these really dark glasses, which are supposed to protect your eyes. And this one guy couldn't find his glasses, so he turned around and he put his hands over his face. And when the bomb exploded, he saw every bone in his hand. That's how bright it was. And one time we detonated a nuke over Hawaii in space. So here's Honolulu, and there's the nuclear explosion happening in space in the middle of the night. And we won't go there. Nuke towns is another thing. They used to build these fake towns all over the desert, and then we'd drop a nuclear weapon on it just to see what would happen. Like in the famous scene from Indiana Jones, if you've ever seen the latest one. Yep. Okay, so now you know a little bit about the Cold War and the nuclear bombs. You can now take your quiz over this information.